Hello everyone, before we get to the review of the debut BillyBio album Feed the Fire, we have an audio interview with the man himself, Billy Graziadei. Obviously famous for being in Biohazard, most recently PowerFlo, and now his debut solo work. It's about 20 odd minutes long, done via Skype, so audio only, but it's a fascinating interview, really interesting, touching upon his entire career, and he was an absolute gentleman to speak to. Stay to the end of the video and you'll get to see our review and our thoughts on the upcoming debut album. Oh, well, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. I guess the obvious first question has to be, what made you decide you wanted to do a solo record? I mean, was it a process that's been spread out over years, or did you just sit up one day and think, yep, I'm going to do this?
You know, I just posted a picture. It was a real funny picture on my Instagram account. I was on tour with PowerFlo, and there's a couple little jokes in here, but and the picture is a picture of me. It was download, and it was our first date outside of the U.S. And it's a picture of me backstage with the guys, and I'm there. We're all sitting there chilling out in the sun, and I have this chair swinging over my head, and the little tag on the bottom was the moment you realize it's time for a solo band.
Okay.
So tongue in cheek, jokes aside, I think that at first, Sen and I, when we were putting together PowerFlo, we talked about juggling with Biohazard and Cypress Hill.
Yeah.
And it was something that Biohazard will always be around. I obviously love what I do with the band. And Cypress Hill, we're both proven things that we do what we do. We work the way we work. Cypress Hill is a much more well-organized machine, whereas Biohazard is more of a vibe kind of thing. So that was the plan. I always wanted to do something solo. I think since I started. I mean, just being a prolific writer in the bands that I'm with, I love the way bands work, but I also love having my vision in my head, be the final painting that ends up hanging on the wall without handing the paintbrush to somebody else saying, what do you think?
Yeah.
So in the end, the timing just seemed to fall in place perfectly. And so Sen and I, we juggled Cypress Hill, and now it's BillyBio. So it was a perfect opportunity while Sen was doing the Cypress Hill record. The guys, we were on tour with Life of Agony, and they approached me, and we all grew up together and pretty much went through puberty together. But they were like, hey, we're going to Europe in the fall. We know you're doing the solo record. What do you think? You want to do something? And at the time, Carl, it wasn't done. I was on tour. I was in full PowerFlo mode, and the BillyBio was, on the back burner.
Oh.
And I came home from that tour, and I thought it was a great opportunity and perfect timing. So I finished up what I needed to finish up with, teamed up with Tui Madsen to mix it, and then met everybody at AMM Records, and everything just seemed to be, it feels like it's been 2 years, but it's been like 4 months and just nonstop grinding to get this, everything put together.
Yeah.
Super psyched with the way it came out.
Well, so you went out on tour with Life of Agony in October across Europe, and so basically it wasn't finished. So you were doing songs like from the album.
Yeah, everything just seemed. When I came home from tour with Life of Agony and PowerFlo, we finished end of July, and that's when I said, okay, let me just put this together and see if I can make this work. And for a little bit, I didn't think I would have any kind of partnership in place with a record label. So I was going to do it solo, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, DIY it, and this is what I love to do, and it's all good. And then I met the family at AFM, and just seemed to click it off. We all had a previous history together through Biohazard early days, and it just seemed to work.
So that was the perfect thing for you, got a perfect partnership.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I'm really happy, and I had great experiences and some shitty experiences over the years with record labels, but the best were always when fans of music work at a record label. And it was a great experience with Roadrunner. Nuclear Blast is a great home for Biohazard, and we just couldn't put anything together for BillyBio, but the guys, everybody at AFM, you know, they're all fans of metal and rock, so it's an
Perfect.
easy shoot. You know, it's an easy fit.
Yeah. I mean, you've already kind of mentioned as well, you've obviously had an incredible career as all the bands you've been in, staples of the metal scene, and you're only a few weeks away now from Feed the Fire's release. Is this the most exciting part for you, where you're kind of just gearing up for this record's release? You get to, go out and do your press and talk to people and say, hey, it's coming, release your singles, your videos.
I like everything, man. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it. And from crafting and creating the songs, expressing myself at the beginning when nobody knows, to to this last tour, Carl, there was no. It was just like the beginning of Biohazard. We went to Europe with a band called Mucky Pup with Biohazard in the early days. Nobody knew us. People sat there with their arms crossed and like, who the fuck is Biohazard? Who's the guy? Two guys with long hair, two guys with short hair. They didn't know what we were doing. And by 2 or 3 songs in, their heads would start moving, and by the end of the show, they were grooving to what we were doing. But same thing with BillyBio. Even there was no press. Nobody had any idea. Nobody tied it together that Billy Biohazard, the blonde guy, is BillyBio. So after 3 songs, they were like the same kind of reaction to the early days of Biohazard. And then I would stop and say, okay, cool. Listen, I know you have no idea who I am and what we are, from a band called Biohazard. And then every night, there'd be these looks like, oh yeah, that is the dude from Biohazard. So it was all good and cool. And then by the end of the show, it was like a Biohazard concert. It was, huge pits, and not huge pits, but people dug it. And it was ballsy to go out on stage and play songs that nobody has a clue of what you're about. And as a band with history, like every band deals with that. You grow an audience, you build a family and a squad that likes your music. You go out, you do a new song off a new record that's not out yet, and you have to deal with that kind of like, let me see if this works kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But you still have the staples that you can go back to. Right after the new song, you go back to a song that everybody knows and likes. So as a new artist, there's none of that. So every night was just like, you're swinging by a fucking a wire without a net, and I love that. So to answer your question, man, I probably went off on a tangent. I love all the aspects of it. I love creating. I love going out and introducing new stuff, stuff that I feel strong about, and then in talking about what I do. And then I really enjoy the creative side from the artwork to directing my videos and coming up with creative ideas that are beyond just the music and lyrics. And then being on tour. So I love it all.
Well, it seems to be like the album for me. It seems to be like the sum of all your parts for all your careers, because Follow and Biohazard throughout your career and PowerFlo as well kind of came our way this year. In fact, we saw you guys play July in London, the Boston Music Room, when you played it this year, and you guys were great. So it's kind of like a sum of all your parts. And having listened to it, 2 words seem to come to mind for me: angry and passionate. What, I guess it's the question is, what inspired particularly lyrical content of the album?
I think it just popped in my head when you said angry and passionate. I feel it's all about passion and I'm going to invent a new word and call it angsty. It's like full of angst, but instead of anger, it's more angsty. But the especially with things like Rise and Slay or Sick and Tired, there's a lot of things that have gone on in the world over the years that progressively seem to have gotten worse. I'm a firm believer, I'm a PMA kind of guy, and I'm a firm believer that the world is as dark as it seems, and every day, we just had another mass shooting the other night in California, and every day you turn on the news, it just seems like things are getting worse and worse. But I do believe that obviously evil is the lesser and good prevails, or the world would be way worse. But it seems like it never fails that the negative seems to sell a lot of papers, not papers anymore, but get a lot of ratings for that matter. and then and it eats away at you. Sick and tired deals strictly with that, and just being sick and tired of all the negative shit, and it pulls you down. You got to just rise above, put it aside. You can't ignore it. You got to pay attention to it because there's so many issues from have been prevalent since I was first started writing with Biohazard, that are still prevalent now. So I think that this is a reflection of the issues. For me, Feed the Fire is a reflection of the issues that were important to me, but from another side, another point of view. I'm older, and I care about things that I cared about then. But now, for example, I when I was younger, I didn't pay taxes. I tried to do everything I could to avoid it. Now I realize, as you're older, you can't do that. You have to realize that you're part of a community, that your community, survives off of people who want to be a part of the community and are interested in, helping the future. I've always held the youth as close to my heart. I love the way that the generation now stands up louder than any generation previous. And you can say what you want to say about how, they scream about things that are kind of stupid to other people. But I love people standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. And that is another theme on the record. So, funny story. I've mentioned something about taxes. There was a moment where my daughter's school was going to be shut down.
Okay.
They were going to shut down the music department, and I ended up becoming friends with the director of the music department, who, ironically, was a Sick of It All fan. And the first conversation, she's like, "I know who you are. Blah, blah, blah. I'm a huge Sick of It All fan, and I know Biohazard, but I'm not really a Biohazard fan." I'm like, "That's okay. It's cool."
Yeah.
But her and I became friends. They were shutting the music department down, and so I came up with some ideas and worked with the school board and the principal and the director of the music department, and came up with some ideas to try to drum up interest. My idea didn't lead to solving the deficit to save the music department, but raised enough awareness among the parents that people voted to keep that in and find other ways to make the music department and our department stay part of the curriculum for the kids. And as a kid, music saved my life, and I was like, this is something that has to happen, versus me being, like a rock and roll guy who just wants to party, drink beers, smoke weed, and hang out, which I don't do. But so my point is, when I was younger, I cared about those things, but now I see how it affects my community, my life, my family. So I'd step up and I'm more active in those things.
So you're almost using your platform in a different way than perhaps when you were younger and you first started out in Biohazard and things like that. I guess your priorities have shifted slightly, would you say?
I say grown, it's definitely grown. I still like the cover of the record. I mean, you can fight and stand, fight for what you believe in one way, and for me, I choose to do it through music. But I also am active in the ways I just described. Like that, that's important to me. I obviously didn't have kids, little ones back then, to really feel affected or feel how my actions could affect my surroundings.
Kids obviously change everything.
Yep, for the better.
Yeah. So one of the other things I noticed about the album was you also chose to do a pledge music campaign for it. I was reading earlier on the entire sort of bio related to that, and it talks a lot about family, not treating them fans as fans, but as family.
Yeah, bro. I watched my whole career, and I get it. There's a business side of shit, and managers and record labels, and not everybody, and not. It's not a blanketed statement or a generalization, but it's business, and people look at it as a source of income and shit like that, and I get it.
Yeah.
But for me as an artist, I always, every thank you, every smile, every story, every handshake came from my heart and my soul, and I've always meant it. I've always been the guy that goes out of his way to go and say hi to people and thank them for their support or just have a cool conversation. I like that. I enjoy that part of touring. And pledge, until something else comes better, it's what I've found through PowerFlo, a way to to like directly eliminate all the barriers and the clouds and the for lack of a better word, propaganda between me and who I want to talk to and who I want to shake hands with. So it's a cool pledge, and I like the way pledge because it's almost like you make an oath that here this is going to be directly from me to you, and all those things are my ideas. There's some things that I love about it, and logistically it's hard to. It wasn't if the pricing wise, I wish things could have been a little bit heavier on my choosing, but there's things that are behind the scenes that I have no control over. From fulfillment houses, people like I come up with ideas and like that's a great idea, but you realize it's going to cost $5 to get somebody to type out the to address the envelope, fill the envelope, blah 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 blah. And so if you really only want to charge $8 for that, then it's kind of pointless. Yeah. To me, it's not pointless because it's a way of saying thank you, especially to people who will go out of their way to really support something before it's out. That's a true believer, in my opinion, and that is rewarded.
They're basically saying we have confidence in you, your music. The whole term pledge is truly fantastic.
Yeah, I dig it. And there's another company called We Are One that I'm talking to now, but that's a really cool thing. I think it's going to be the future especially for direct contact with the audience.
Would you say you're a workaholic? I mean, just going off this year alone with PowerFlo and now BillyBio, I mean, you're very, very busy.
I don't. It's not work. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
Another reason, Carl, why I went with BillyBio. Some people are like, why are you using bio? I'm like, it's a part of my past. I did other projects where I ignored who I was. I had this band called Suicide City, which was like a really cool thing I did with some friends from different bands. One of the girls from Jennifer from Kitty, and Carl and AJ from a band called Ghost Fight and Groove Nicks. But anyways, during that time, Roadrunner came to us and said, we want to sign you guys. And I'm like, no, we're not even a band. We got a demo. We want to be in a van and smell each other and, live off of old pizza and sleep on, people's floors that invite us after the show. I took Biohazard out of all the biographies and all the, the MySpaces and shit like that. But my point is, it is who I am. I love what I've done in the past, and I'm a product of that. And I proudly play Biohazard songs. I asked the audience, what do you want to hear? And as long as the guys I'm playing with know the song, I play them. So it's something I'm very proud of, and that's why I embraced, the name. And the guys in Biohazard, of course I have their blessing, and we talk all the time, and I'll be jamming with them when I play through, New York and Florida, where Bobby is, whatever. So I think I might have gotten off on a tangent, but hopefully I answered that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear. Nothing kind of ever sort of gets a little depressing when you sort of hear, I don't know, use Motorhead as an example, where Lemmy hated playing Ace of Spades by the end because he had to play at every show. And it's like, I guess that's what people, if that's what they know about you, be glad they know that about you. And I guess for yourself, it's like people hear Billy and Bio, and if they put two together and go, oh, that's Biohazard. And if that's what gets them excited to then hear the rest of the music, that can only be a good thing.
Yep, never bad. Yeah. There's no, I don't believe in bad things in life. There's just challenges. Ironically, you brought up Lemmy. I love Motorhead, and on this last run, we were doing an exploited song with Ace of Spades lyrics over it. So a little homage to two people I love.
Fantastic. This must be quite unique.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So, I guess ultimately it's about what comes next. So the album's November 30th, and then you've basically got December and Christmas. So you're going to be spending time with your family, I imagine, and so on. 2019. The question always comes up, what are you doing in 2019? I'm going to say you're going to be mostly touring, but a biggest thing is us in the UK. Any chance you're going to be heading this way, or is it just a hopefully?
No, 100%. the UK out of, I know you now you're definitely not part of Europe or soon to be on paper. I love it there, and it's it's home away from home. There's no language barrier. You have great sense of humor. I love everything about the UK. I'm sorry, one second, my son. What about iPad? Check in the bedroom. So I will definitely be there. I am going on tour in December here in the States, and we tried to get there after this Life of Agony tour, but there wasn't enough time, and it was very difficult to book dates when none of the promoters like, who's BillyBio? And so with the record out, it's going to be easier, and I'll be back there for sure during the winter. We're trying to put something together with a couple different ideas I have and other bands. So for sure I'll be there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because I guess an idea for a future world tour, if you, I don't know if you would feel that you'd be able to do it, but I guess the picture would be Biohazard, PowerFlo, and BillyBio on all the same stage. So you basically have to pull triple duty.
I would do it, and I would do it just for the challenge alone, Carl. That's it.
Brilliant.
I'm trying to get Sendog to do PowerFlo in Cypress Hill, which would be easy for me, more difficult for him.
Yeah.
But I would do. It would probably be much easier for me to do BillyBio and PowerFlo. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be a great combination. Yeah. So Billy Graziadei made his name as part of the legendary hardcore punk band Biohazard. You should all know that by now. And more recently with crossover metal band PowerFlo. A multi-talented musician, Billy finally thought it was time to venture into solo territory, and BillyBio was born. The debut album Feed the Fire is out on November 30th, 2018 via APF Records. The hate of men will pass and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. Does that quote sound familiar? It might sort of be ringing in your head. It's Charlie Chaplin from The Great Dictator. It's the quote that starts off this album, and with it, Billy lays out his inspirations for this album for all to see. Feed the Fire is a record filled with passion, taking swipes at the political landscape, the media, and a constant fuel of negativity thrown our way. Those familiar with his other bands will be comfortable with what this album has to offer, but it has to be said that BillyBio also stands on its own 2 feet too. Beginning at a blazing pace, Freedom's Never Free is pure hardcore gold with chunky guitars and vocals spat at an intense level. It's a statement of intent, and BillyBio are determined to get your attention with this song. But what really makes this album a worthy listen is how it's rooted in positive messages, and a lot of the time is very catchy. The title track has a banger of a chorus. No apologies, no regrets, slow verses followed by intense bursts of speed change things up, and Generation Z or Z is shockingly catchy. The latter, that is going to kill it live. What really makes Feed the Fire such a great album though is that even if you're not a fan of Biohazard or PowerFlo, chances are you might like this. It's a little bit more accessible, to be honest. It's got all Billy's influences, but it's not restricted by them. A top production job too really hits the mark. The first half of the album is downright excellent stuff, and happily, it never runs out of steam in the second. Solidarity's rapping plays off Chunky Groove wonderfully, and STFU is as passionate as anything in the album, as Billy demands that you stand up for yourself for all the good you believe in. Feed the Fire is every bit as satisfying as giving the middle finger to every bit of negativity that comes at you from all walks of life. BillyBio has your back. The album Feed the Fire is out on November 30th, 2018 via APF Records. I thoroughly recommend you check it out, particularly if you're a fan of Biohazard and PowerFlo. And even if you're not, give it a listen. I reckon you'll quite like it.